So good morning. Good morning after a wild, turbulent ride in the market on yesterday. This is Gurula, and my name is Richard Gordon. Today is Thursday, May the 19th, and we are just sort of watching what's going to happen as a result of the carnage from yesterday. The Dow fell over 1,100 points. And of course, what was really interesting, David, is when I got up this morning, I had to take my wife to the airport. So I thought, let me just take a look and see what's happening with the futures. and this is like 5:30, right? So I opened my phone, look at my app, and it showed that the SPY was down over 5%. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is from yesterday. It was down over 4%. So we're gonna have another 5% day down. And then I realized that they had not yet calculated from the close. They hadn't changed the calculation from the close. They were using the close of the previous day versus yesterday's close, right, to determine where things were. So I'm like, so at 6 o'clock a.m., those numbers changed dramatically, and not NASDAQ. Yeah, so the NASDAQ was only down like 1.5%. No, SPY was down 1.5%. But I thought 5%. Oh gosh! And then I was looking at Tesla. Tesla was down like $70. But again, they were calculating from the previous day's close versus yesterday's close. So I was thinking, man, I really missed a huge move to the downside. I would like to have been short yesterday if it's going to make that kind of move. 5% down on the SPY. But anyway, it was short-lived. So what do you expect is going to happen today? I mean, we're looking at the VIX here, which looks like it's going to continue falling. Any thoughts about what this market might do?
Rich, it looks like the S&P, put another double bottom at 38.53. If it breaks that, then I would say we're in a lot of trouble.
All right, so and for the SPY, let me go to a daily chart on SPY.
Yeah, that's what the SPY is based on.
All right, so we've got a low of 385.15, but it looks like we're going to get a bounce today. I mean, based on what I'm seeing, I mean, I'm looking at a couple of things this morning. So I'm going to go to a 30-minute chart here. We've got some overhead resistance here for SPY, but looking at Apple, it's sort of bouncing off this algorithmic support level here. ADM doesn't really do a whole lot in pre-market, so we're just sort of waiting for that. Disney, looks like Disney's catching a bid onto the upside. Pfizer's weak. I'm really surprised at the weakness in Pfizer. I thought it would be one of those stocks that people would really pour into. So we're going to pay attention to this area here, SPY 390.02. This is on the 30-minute chart. This is an 8-year trailing stop. So that's going to could be trouble for the SPY. And then Tesla, 714.59. Any thoughts on Tesla, David?
Yeah, 700 goodbye. I don't think it's going much below.
All right, so that's good because I'm banking on that as well. I actually, I'm in my other account, I'm in some Tesla calls. So, all right, so we're gonna get ready for this market here. I'm gonna go to a 2-minute or a 1-minute chart. And we're going to wait today. Would have been wise to have waited yesterday for the opening range to form. I think we'll just be a little patient here today and see what we get. And we'll let the opening range form on the chart, and from there make some decisions. But it should be an interesting day for sure. And I am anticipating that the market will at least claw back some of those gains. So good morning, Morris. How are you this morning?
Good. Trying to be.
Yeah, well,
I was, it was the wrong direction of the SPY for me yesterday, but
yeah,
that bus is around the corner.
yeah. I believe me, I completely understand. I was on the wrong side of a bunch of trades yesterday. So all right, so look at Apple. Apple is trying to make up for some lost gains here. So on the 30-minute chart for Apple, there's 141.73. We got an ATR trailing stop. 141.73. We're going to mark that. Keep our eye peeled. Let's go back to our 1-minute chart. So looking at SPY, looks like SPY is already testing that ATR trailing stop, which is at 390.02. That's not going to be a problem. Looks like it's going to break right through. And I guess Apple is a popular choice today. Really strong volume. Arthur Daniels Midland, which I consider to be somewhat defensive in nature, is not proven to be such a great choice. We had a really nice opportunity on it the other day and we did not take it. And it's been sort of anemic since then. So Disney, let me mark some resistance on Disney. I'm going to use a 30-minute. So 104.60. 104.60. And let's go back to SPY, take another look. And it's making up for lost time. All right, so we're through this ATR trailing stop here. Of course, we have 30 minutes, so not certain that that's going to hold necessarily. Let's take a look at the 1 hour and see where the next level of resistance is. And that's going to be at 392.50. 392.50. So we're going to mark that as well. because these not only provide resistance, but they also provide support once it's broken. And it may not be seen on the chart. And we can see here, the SPY broke. This is a 1 minute chart. This is a 30-minute ATR trailing stop. So we see SPY broke through here, and now it's providing support. So this is why I like to mark these things on my chart. They become really good gauges. Let's take a check here on the VIX. So we do have falling VIX, but we've got a hammer here, so that's a bit of a concern. It's a 1 minute chart though. So on the 30-minute, we've got support here at 31.10, and again at 30.38. Ideally, we'd like for the VIX to fall beneath all of this support. All right, so Apple is testing that resistance at 141.73. It struggled there. I'm watching the SPY, and the SPY is clearly through that resistance, so it looks like it's a day of buying rather than selling. So we're getting a bounce. Disney is testing the 30-minute ATR as well. I guess everything's on sale. ADM. Pfizer. SPY again. And what is Tesla doing? So Tesla even. Tesla's going to test the 714 ATR trailing stop, which is on this 30-minute chart. All right, so we have 9:37 at the moment, and at 9:46 we will get an indicator on our chart, which will give us our opening range, which will be the high and the low. And it looks like the market is going to push higher. Check back on Apple. We've got a little consolidation here. Okay, so Arthur Daniels business is awake. Disney is pushing through the ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute. So we're going to look for the next level of resistance. That's going to be at 105.41. 105.41. That is on the 1 hour chart. 1 hour. We're going to mark that. And we go back to our 1 minute chart and see how it's handling this resistance on the 30-minute. So again, we see something similar. So Disney pushed through the ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute chart, and now it looks like it's testing that ATR trailing stop as support. So on your chart, once it pushes through, it disappears and it moves to the bottom. So I'll show you again on the 30-minute chart, for example. So you see the dots here, but once it pushes through, you'll see a blue dot that forms on the bottom, because then that ATR trailing stop resistance becomes support. And we're looking at a 13-day period where we're tracking the range of volatility between the highs and the lows of Disney, and we're using a multiple of 4. This is an indicator developed by Widener, who's very popular apparently, because most of the indicators that I see have been developed by this gentleman. So I wish I had them on my side as a trader. Let's look at SPY as a better representation of this 30-minute. So here you see on SPY, these purple dots were here. When SPY broke through on the 30-minute candle, then it moved here. So this would be the range, essentially, on a 30-minute time frame for SPY, the high and the low. But this will not be persistent until 30 minutes has expired and this candle has closed. So in the interim, if, for example, SPY falls back beneath this 30-minute, this ATR on the 30-minute chart, then this blue dot will go away and this purple dot will form, and it will be persistent resistance, which indicates that it's getting rejected at this level. But it does not appear that's going to be the case. We are finding support on the 5-day EMA. All right, so let's take a look at Apple. So Apple is still testing this 30-minute ATR. So on Apple, what I'm showing is the 5-day exponential moving average is at 144.31. That would be the target I would set for Apple. I would expect that Apple could get rejected at that price point. Similarly, looking at Disney, the 5-day EMA is at 105.68. So Disney, that's pretty close. So, but Disney could get rejected there, or it could climb above it and find support. If it gets rejected, then that would indicate that Disney is still going to continue in a downward trend. And it looks like it's struggling here with the ATR trailing stop. Pfizer found support yesterday on the 20-day EMA, which is at 50.11 currently. So it's sitting right on top of it right now. Well, 50.13. So it looks like it's going to climb above. But it found support there yesterday, and the question is whether that support will hold. Looks like it will. The 5-day EMA is at 50.35, but given the fact that it's bouncing off this key level of support, then I think that should be fine. For SPY, the 5-day EMA is at 396.18, so that would be a target for SPY today, where I would anticipate it would get rejected or could find some resistance today. One thing I've noticed about SPY is whatever day it tends to trade in on Thursday, it also continues in that direction on Friday. So if today is an up day, I would expect that tomorrow would be an update for SPY as well. Tesla, 731.01 is where we expect to find resistance. All right, so we're at 9:43. We've got about 3 more minutes before we'll get this formation of the opening range. So right now, it looks like the high is 141.66, and the low is 139.59. Obviously, Apple is getting rejected here at the ATR on the 30-minute chart, and getting rejected in a big way, actually. And we have something similar happening with the SPY. So we saw the SPY climb above the 30-minute ATR, and then it fell below. So now if I go back to this 30-minute chart, you'll see the blue dot is gone. That dot is now back here where it was originally. You may not be able to see it because it's covered by this purple line, So again, until this candle climbs above here, this purple dot's going to be persistent. I'm expecting, based on the fact that we've hit this a couple of times, that this is going to be weakened. This resistance above here is going to be weakened, and then we'll get a move to the upside. But right now we're dealing with the VIX, and the VIX is bouncing off of this 50-day EMA. All right, so let's go back to our 1-minute chart. We're close to having some formation of an opening range, which will help us with understanding direction. And whether or not this is going to be a move to the up or downside. So I do have the VIX hitting an ATR trailing stop on the 5-minute chart. So if it gets rejected there, that will help with upside movement. All right, so now we have our opening range set. The green is the opening high, the red is the opening low within the first 15 minutes. And we're going to use this for our trading decisions. So we're going to trade SPY today. And we're going to go with whatever direction it takes us. And we're going to use the opening range to make a decision, whether we're trading to the upside or the downside. Just going to be a little patient. So when SPY breaks, we're not going to get in right away. We're on a 1-minute chart. We're going to look for a test of this level. So we expect there will be somewhat of a rebound here, and we would then look to buy off of a rejection of this resistance level now, which is the opening low. So it's like the Dow is down almost 500 points. We see an Apple bounce off the opening low. All right, so we're looking at SPY. So we've got this test that we're about to see here of this opening low, quite possibly. Going to be patient. Looking at the VIX. The VIX broke through its opening range to the upside. Question is whether it finds support here. We do want to see the SPY come back and test this resistance. we're moving into the oversold territory. All right, so Apple moving to the downside. ADM. Disney, it seems to be a stable. Pfizer is positive. SPY is, look like it's finding some support. So is Tesla. So now Tesla's testing this opening low. All right, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled here on SPY. So on the 30-minute chart of SPY, what I see is an inverted hammer. And we don't want to get caught in a situation where we're in a bear trap. So we're just going to watch for, again, we're looking for a rejection off of this resistance level. So we do expect it to come back. And then the question is, when it comes back, what happens? What we saw yesterday was we ended up in a consolidation. And it consolidated for quite a while, and then it finally broke out to the downside. All right, so Apple is displaying some serious weakness. Disney looks like it's turning. Pfizer's consolidating. SPY looks like it's bouncing. And so is Tesla. All right, so now we're going to see what happens and how SPY handles the next few minutes. So this signals a reversal, this doji. We've got a spinning top, another spinning top. So we don't really know what's going to happen. We're going to use our charts. We're going to use the opening range breakout. So if we get rejected here, then we would buy to the downside. If we break through here and we are finding support above the opening range breakout on the opening low, then we'd have to consider a trade to the upside. We're also paying attention to what's happening with the RSI and also with the MACD. And we're using a 1-minute chart. So it's quite possible we could be in a trade for 5-10 minutes at the most, depending upon how things shake out. All right, so cycle back through, take a look at Apple again. Apple just looks like it's weak, but no real conviction. We've got declining volume. Looks to be oversold. ADM, trying to find some movement to the upside. Disney to the upside. So Disney may not be a bad trade, except it doesn't have a lot of headroom, to be honest. 105.59, there's a lot of resistance there. That's at the 5-day EMA. Pfizer. All right, so SPY So we've got the flattening MACD. We did see that yesterday. And we acted a bit too soon. So we've got the rising RSI. We've got this test now of the opening range low. So we may have an opportunity here to make a decision. We do have good volume coming in on this candle. All right, so we've broken through the opening range low, it looks like. And the question is, will that hold? With a target on SPY again at 395. I'm going to get ready for a call. Keeping my eye on the SPY and also on the VIX. All right, so we've got the MACD about to cross over. We've got the SPY above the opening range low, above the VWAP. I'm going to go ahead and enter a trade here on SPY. And I just bought a call. I bought the 394 call on SPY. And we actually pay a little bit more for time than we did intrinsic value, because again, we're buying outside the money. And I have a target on SPY 395.71. That is for today. Don't plan on swinging this, but certainly hope to benefit from the move to the upside. The expiration is not until tomorrow, and SPY moves $11.30. So let's see, we've got a low today of 387.11. So 387.11 plus 1130. That says 398.41 on SPY today. 398.41. That's a bit more than my 395.76. And that would not be surprising. It could still hit that 398.41 and get rejected by the 5-day EMA by the close of business, by the close of market today. So we think that our selection of this particular strike at 394 is okay. Again, we're outside the money, but we're not looking to hold this, of course, all day. We're looking to try to hold this until we can see a top for SPY. And we've got weakness coming in here. So looks like the VIX is finding support on an ATR trailing stop on the 5-minute chart. Let me show you that. So right here. But we are not concerned. So ideally, I don't want to get stuck in another consolidation. If in fact that is the case, if we end up consolidating here, I'm going to be very careful about whether I stay in the trade or not. But if we do end up in consolidation, I'm going to make my stops very tight because as we saw yesterday, we were in a consolidation, and things looked positive, and then of course the bottom fell out. SPY broke out to the downside and never looked back. So we don't want to get caught on the wrong side of this trade. So we have a lot of overhead resistance. We've got the 8-year trailing stop here on the 1 minute. We have the 8-year trailing stop on this 30-minute. And then we have this fib level here, 390.13. So lots to overcome. The good thing is, should we overcome that resistance, then it also becomes support. And then we have a lot of support beneath, as you can see. We've got all the moving averages, and we have the VWAP here, the green line, which is also support. All right, so it looks like our entry was not a bad decision. We waited until we found support here above the opening range low. This looked like a good place to consider. And this is where the RSI turned up and we had a flattening of the MACD. So these two indicators alone were not enough yesterday to save us. We did not wait for the ORB to form, and that was an unwise decision. So we need to use every single indicator that we have at our disposal if we're going to be successful. So nice move on the SPY. We need to break this resistance. All right, so it looks like we may be able to do that. We're on a 1 minute chart. So now this resistance has become support. You see the blue dots here, which represented the 8-year trailing stop resistance, are now at the bottom. They were purple at the top. We've got volume coming in. You can see this candle here. We've got volume that exceeds the average volume. Yesterday, we did not see this. There was very little volume. And as the SPY was moving down, the volume was below average. And it just looked like there were just no buyers available. Today, we're seeing a little bit different thing happening here with the above average volume. The volume appears to be growing as well to the upside. All right, so it looks like we may have made a good choice here. So I'm going to keep my eye on this next level of resistance, which is here. This is where the opening range breakout high is. So we want to break through this. So this is the high of the day so far. We can see it correlates here. We want to break through this. And if we break through this, come back and find support, then I would actually add to my position. Taking a look at the VIX. And we're going to cycle back through our choices here. So we're back at looking at Apple. Looks like good volume on Apple. ADM looks a bit anemic and consolidating. Disney. So Disney has actually broken through the opening range high and looks like it's going to find support here. So it looks very bullish for the day. Looking at the 5-day EMA on Disney, it's 105.87. So if we can get above the 5-day EMA, that would be a really good indicator that Disney is going to continue to move to the upside. Pfizer is falling apart on us, so that's not so great. Tesla. All right, so Tesla is now back at this 30-minute ATR. It's also approaching the opening range high. So if we can break that, that would be a bullish signal for Tesla. Let's go back to the SPY and keep our eyes peeled on this. So again, lots of volatility in the market today. So what we want to see is we want to see SPY find support here and then push through this opening range high, ideally. So our 30 minutes closed and we didn't have a breakthrough. So go back to the 30-minute chart. Remember I talked about the ATR trailing stop. So when this candle closed, even though it had exceeded the ATR here, it closed beneath the ATR. So it now closed and formed here. So now we're back above it and you see the blue dot here. So this candle needs to close at 10:30 above this ATR trailing stop in order for this dot to persist as support. That would indicate that this resistance is gone and has now become support. Ideally, that's what we would like to see because we're trading to the upside. And this whole idea of trading requires lots of patience. So the SPY is struggling with this ATR trailing stop, it's struggling with this fib level and this 5-day EMA. But we want to see if we can close above it and then continue the move to the upside. So I'm looking at my 5-minute chart for the VIX. And the VIX is rising, but it has resistance at 31.89. It's currently at 31.80. So I'm expecting the VIX to get rejected there, and then we can get continued move to the upside on SPY. So we've got some bit of a struggle here. And again, we are on a 1-minute chart. All right, we have some volume coming in, looks like. And then we have weakness again. So we need to get above not only this high, but we need to break through this opening range high so that we can then start to trend to the upside. That's what we would like to see. But it looks like we're getting a consolidation. So I'm going to tighten my stops and I'm going to use the 20-day EMA here. If we close below that, I'm going to take my exit and look for another entry. Well, when we close on it, I'm going to exit and just wait. Take my small profit, my small gain, and wait for the SPY to decide what it wants to do. But we do have this consolidation happening right now, and we don't want to get stuck in it because it will simply erode the value of our premium. So now what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the SPY to break this opening range high before we take another trade. Because otherwise, we don't have a clear indication that we're going to move to the upside yet. We did get something here with the RSI and the MACD, so that was a sort of a signal, but now we need to break through this opening range high. And while it certainly would have been nice to still be in a trade, I'm not one for putting capital at risk. And the idea is you want to be able to live to trade another day. All right, let's take a look at what we got here at Apple. And ADM, Disney. All right, so Disney would be an opportunity to enter to the upside because Disney is breaking through. It broke through the opening range high, it came back, it's testing support, and then on the next move up is where you would enter a trade on Disney to the upside. Pfizer's breaking down. SPY is consolidating. Looks like the VIX is as well. And so is Tesla. So we're in the middle of a consolidation. So we're just going to be patient and wait for clear direction. So if we were still in the trade right now with this consolidation, what we'd have is an erosion of our premium. So whatever gains we have, whether going sideways, time would just eat away at them. So it is better to wait when we have a trending market or a trending stock. And we don't have that yet. All right, still waiting on SPY to give us a signal. We could be in for a long day today. We have a cup and handle pattern here on the 1 minute. So this tells us that we're going to get a breakout. Question is, which direction will it be? We are above the VWAP, so that is a bullish indicator. I'd love to see some volume come in. The volume has declined. As you can see here, we had some good volume, which is above average, and the volume fell off and we never got back to above average volume. So we need to see some volume come in, and we're looking again for SPY to cross above the opening range high to decide whether we're going to trade to the upside or to cross below the opening range low to decide if we're going to trade to the downside. Consolidation. I'm looking at a 5-minute chart and this looks like a triangle. So I'm going to take the liberty of drawing some trend lines. I can actually go from here. All right, so this will help us maybe figure out what is going to happen here. So this looks like an ascending triangle. So what we have is resistance here and support here. And at some point we're expecting SPY to make a decision one way or the other. All right, so it looks like we have some volume coming in, some upside volume. It's still not above average. Looks like we may have a breakout here. It's going to be a long trading day. That's for sure. It looks like there's going to be a real struggle here. What's happening, it probably is resulting in people rebalancing their portfolios. All right, so we're breaking out here, looks like. We're above the trend line. If we can get a close and then we can get a continued move to the upside, looks like the 5-day EMA is actually going to provide support here at this level. I went back out so you can see what this looks like. So we are still positive to the upside. Volume appears to be picking up as well, but nothing that gives us any real conviction yet. right, so that was a false breakout. We're still in a consolidation. We really need some volume. We have a decent candle. Looks like we got a good move, so here we go. Looks like we may actually have a breakout here. I'm going to watch for how SPY handles this opening range high, and we need to break through it to have some confidence in the move to the upside. Now we do have some volume. That's good. I'm going to get rid of these trend lines. All right, so we just broke the opening range high. We want to close above it. Again, looking at a 1 minute chart. Every candle represents 1 minute. We've got good volume coming in here, so that's a good signal for us. But we need to break this opening range high, and we need to close above it and find support above it. And then we're going to run into some overhead resistance here on the 1 hour chart. We've got the ATR trailing stop at 392.50. So we're going to wait for it to test that and then come back if we can actually get over this. All right, let's go through and look at some other things we've got going. So Apple consolidating. ADM finally looks like it's making a move off the bottom. Disney consolidating. It broke the opening range high, came back, and it's consolidating here along this ATR trailing stop. Pfizer, maybe it's waking up. Tesla. Has a lot of resistance to this ATR trailing stop and then the opening range high. All right, so let's go back to SPY. All right, so the next time we hit this open range high, we should break it. And at that point, I would look to make an entry to the upside. Still the $394 call. We're going to watch carefully here. So we've hit this. This will be the third time we got rejected here. And typically the first time you hit resistance, you're going to get rejected. And we see that rejection could happen again. But the more times we hit this, then the more likely it is to break. So looking at the VIX is sitting right on top of this ATR trailing stop, which is for a 30-minute ATR trailing stop, which is also where the fib level is. So that could be significant support or resistance. We want the VIX to fall through here and for this to become resistance for us to have a chance to the upside. So patience, again, just keeping an eye on what's going on. So this is a higher high. We, again, just need to break this level. So we don't want to fall beneath here because there's really strong support there. But we're not in a trade right now. So we are at this point risk free. I would consider a trade to the upside off of this 50-day EMA, but it's again not in keeping with our method and our strategy. We need to see the SPY cross above and find support using this opening range high. All right, so we're at 10:26. Any questions about this morning's trade so far? All right, so we're losing momentum. We are still above the VWAP. So we look to find support here and bounce off the VWAP. If we can get a bounce off the VWAP, I would consider a trade to the upside. I would also consider a trade to the upside off of this 8-year trailing stop and this opening range low. But in order to do that, what I would need to see is I need to see the candle above all of this resistance, which would mean it'd have to be above the EMAs. So this is not quite a hammer. The wick is not long enough. You normally want to see the wick at least twice the length of the body for it to be considered a hammer. It is at the bottom of a move. You have a flathead on this body of the candle here, but again, this shadow or this wick is not long enough for it to be a hammer. We would look to get a bounce off the VWAP here at 389.44. If the VWAP doesn't hold, then that signals trouble. The next level of support is going to be here. The 8-year trailing stop and then the opening low. So right now, the SPY is less than what I sold it for, so that's good. If I was looking to get back in. All right, so it looks like we're going to hold here on the VWAP, but I'm going to watch. There's a lot of resistance here, so we could consolidate here. All right, so I'm going to actually, if we close above this 5-day EMA and above this resistance here, I'm going to enter another trade to the upside. We're right now at 10:30. It looks like I'm going to be waiting. Now, if the SPY breaks through this opening range low, I'm going to buy a put. Rather than a call. This 8-year trailing stop and this opening range low should be very strong support, even more so than any of the other indicators. Need to get back above the VWAP, back above the 5-day EMA, which are now resistance. So we've got the squeeze going on here between the VWAP, the 5-day, and the 8-year trailing stop and the opening range low. If we close above the VWAP here, then I'm going to go back with my earlier decision. I've got a flattening MACD. Not growing volume. All right, so I'm getting back into the upside. If I can get filled. All right. All right, so I'm back in a trade to the upside for SPY, and I will keep you guys posted via text messaging. So I hope you have a wonderful trading day today, and I hope this was helpful as to how you would use these various indicators. It is 10:33 on Thursday, May the 19th. Happy trading, and I will see you tomorrow.